Happy Sunday, everybody, and happy Memorial Day weekend. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on my live stream about fiancé visas. I've been really excited for the last 2 weeks, planning to bring my story to you, as well as some information that I think will really help people who are engaged to men and women who aren't in the United States or who aren't citizens here. If you've talked to me before, if you've met with me, if you've worked with me, if you visited my website, then you know that the way that I got started in immigration was through a fiancé visa myself. Back in 2008, during the surge, I was deployed to Iraq as a member of the Air Force Armed Services. Back then, I was what you call a judge advocate, and that's a JAG lawyer. You may have seen the show on the Navy. In the Air Force, they don't really let us fly the planes like the TV. What we were doing in Iraq was actually helping the local judges and security forces set up the courts to punish terrorism, to get rid of corruption, and just to help Iraq rebuild itself after the war. And I was really honored to be chosen to be part of that team and to go to Iraq with a lot of fellow JAGs from other services and help out there. Now, during my time, I met a member of my security team who was an Iraqi. He provided translation as well as security services, and we became really good friends. And by the end of my deployment, we had started dating and were in a relationship. And we were planning to get married in the United States once my tour ended and I was out of the military. Now, I was not an immigration lawyer then. I knew some things about immigration because I had helped some of our translators, some of our interpreters, and some of the judges who had been threatened because of their work for the armed forces. There was a lot of persecution and a lot of people were harmed and even killed because of working with us. So I knew about that type of immigration, but I didn't really know much about the family side of immigration. So when I got back to the United States, I started researching it. And I found out about that there was a visa called the Fiancé Visa, also called the K-1 visa, that lets a U.S. citizen petition for a foreign fiancé to bring them here for up to 90 days, and you have 90 days to get married. So to me, this seemed like the perfect solution to our immigration problem. Now, I was really afraid to call a lawyer. I know it probably sounds crazy that I was a lawyer and I didn't want to call another lawyer to help me. And I find that that is often really common with professionals, that we're often afraid to ask for help. It's not because we don't trust other lawyers. It's certainly not because we think that we could do a better job. But it's because we're really afraid that we might be told no, that our cases are hopeless, that we'll never win, that we're being used. There was a lot of fear that another lawyer would judge me because of my decisions to get married to someone from Iraq, that they would think that this is crazy and tell me to give up right away. In fact, many friends, even someone who worked for the State Department in the consular services who worked on our team, he told me there's no way I was getting a visa. He said that they would deny it, that there's no way, it was hopeless, and I just refused to accept that. I was also too scared to call a lawyer, so I did it myself. I spent hours, weeks researching, talking to people online, figuring out what forms to file, how to get started, what to expect, and really I got very few answers to my questions. So I just dove in, worked really hard, put together the best case I could. I was terrified the whole time. And if I could go back, I would tell myself to work with a lawyer, to call another immigration lawyer, that they would not judge me, that they would be happy to help, and they would do everything they could. Now, luckily, because I'm an attorney and had some experience just with the bureaucracy, with the government, I was able to put together a good case and my petition was approved. Now, at the end of the day, unfortunately, because of the situation, the ongoing war for Iraq, my fiance was not able to leave the country. That was due to his own government, not because of any immigration problem. And eventually we broke things off, and I went on to start my law firm, helping other people in the same situation. And eventually, over the years, I've expanded. I do a lot more than fiancé visas now. I do business immigration, investor, sports and entertainment, business compliance, a lot of other service practice. But my heart is still with my fiancé visa clients and the people that are going through exactly what I did. So the reason I wanted to share my story again today, even to the people who've already heard it, is that a lot of people are even more afraid now than they were then. The federal government, there's been a lot of changes in the new administration, people hearing all the time that immigration is getting harder or more difficult and people are being denied. And while that is true in some practice areas, I've found that when it comes to fiancé visa, there is still a lot that a lawyer can do to get people through the process, even for countries that are impacted by the travel ban. So don't give up, don't be scared, but definitely call a lawyer. While we have a lot of tools that we can use to help you not to get your petition filed, to get everything correct, to hold your hand during the whole process, one tool that immigration attorneys just don't have, we all want one, but we don't have a time machine. So if you start the process by yourself and you wade in and you make mistakes, depending on how bad of a mistake you made or the situation, we may not be able to help you fix it. And even if we can, it often will add years, months to your case just trying to work that out. So definitely plan ahead. Even if you decide not to use a lawyer, I think everyone looking at the fiancé visa should at least call someone and get some advice before they start. Because while it's a good program for many people, it's not the right program for everybody. And I also wanted to remind people to don't forget your kids. If your fiance has children who you plan to bring with her, the fiancé visa may work in some cases, and in other cases it might not. And sometimes it is the best option, but you may have a time limit. So when you're looking at a case of children, while they can often come with their mom on these fiancé visas, sometimes we need other solutions for them. So don't forget the kids. And I also, I would like to remind people, because of the way that immigration is, and this is not new, it's always been this way. When you come to the United States as a tourist, as a traveler, you're coming to visit, not to work, not to get married and stay. So a lot of people will say, well, I don't understand. My fiance already has a visa. Why can't she just use that visa, come here and just get married and skip the fiance visa? Immigration would consider that type of plan to be immigration, to be misrepresentation, to be misuse of your visa, possibly, depending on the facts, even immigration fraud. So don't do that. Talk to an attorney if your fiance already has a visa or if she is already in the United States. Please don't put her on a plane and then just try to work it out when you get here. Because if things don't go well, or you've made plans to get married and get a green card here, Customs and Border Patrol, they're not stupid. They'll figure it out. They know the signs, and if they pull her aside, they can detain her. They could have her stay overnight. They can remove her from the country. They can give her a removal order, which is going to make it very complex to bring back in. And it is a scary situation. So don't put someone you love into that situation. If you're really planning to get married, make a plan, think about it, but don't try to rush things. When you get married and the person that you're marrying is not a U.S. citizen, unfortunately, the government is going to be involved in your case one way or another, whether that's through trying to remove the spouse, trying to decide whether you're going to get a benefit that you want. You just can't ignore that piece. Finally, I did want to give just a brief shout out. I've written a book about the fiancé visa process. It's called Happily Ever After. It's a pretty basic guide that talks about all the different steps in the process. And I think that's really a good starting point. It's free. There's no cost to it. If you'd like a copy, I've put my email in the notes. Just shoot me an email and say, hey, I'd like a copy, and I will send it back to you. So you're not signing up for any email list. You're not getting anything else but the book. I do have a lot more information I'll be happy to share. Just shoot me an email and let me know what you need. And finally, I'd like to give a shout out. It is Memorial Day weekend to my fellow vets and families of military. Thank you so much for your service. If it weren't for the people putting their lives on the line for us, we would not have the country that we have today. We would not have these freedoms. And we would especially be in a situation where if we were in love with someone from outside the country, if our country wasn't safe, if our borders weren't secure, we wouldn't be able to bring them here legally and have these lives together. Our military is a big piece in keeping us safe and the freedom and the advantages that we have of being able to do this for the people that we love. So I know it's Sunday, everybody's got plans to go outside, so thank you so much for taking some time with me. If you have any questions about the Fiancé Visa process, I'll be checking this thread. You can just type it in the comments and I'll come back over the weekend. I'll come back and answer. Otherwise, my next Q&A is going to be on Friday morning. I'm not quite sure what time. I'm still trying to look at my court schedule and some other things, so just keep an eye on my page to find out what time I'm going to be live again. Everyone have a great and safe Memorial Day weekend. If you are partying, please don't forget, Uber, Lyft, call your friends. The judges, they're not going to be back until at least Tuesday, so if you get into any trouble or your friends get into any trouble, you're probably going to spend the rest of the weekend in jail, and nobody wants to miss their pool party. So be safe, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Goodbye.